Voting is a civic duty. Let's register on the electoral list. This is a message from Equinoxe Television.
Hi there, faithful viewers of Equinoxe Television. It's time for the news in the English language tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. Our Majestaris right away. Ernest Wandier, the one-time Vice President of the UPC, has been described as a courageous, intelligent, and hard-working young man who fought relentlessly against the colonial rule in Cameroon. Our newsroom met with one of his close aides who will be explaining to us some of the courageous sacrifices Ernest Wandier made for the freedom of Cameroonians to the extent he had to be used as a sacrificial lamb. Matthew Joseph tells us that Ernest Wandier sacrificed his own life for the sake of his countrymen. You will listen to him in this news edition. Plus, in Gaundere in the Adamawa region, 5 persons perished following a fire incident. Most of those who lost their lives were trapped in the wildfire following an explosion of a gas bottle. Viewers, those are our big stories. Details coming up next. Welcome back, viewers. Thank you so much for the confidence. We continue talking about our national hero, Ernest Wandier. In this edition of the news, we are telling you more about the nationalist Ernest Wandier again in our quest for first-hand information about the hero and his liberation fights. We talked to one of his followers, our close aides, who witnessed all what happened more than 50 years ago, fighting alongside Ernest Wandier for the independence of Cameroon. It is with a heavy heart that Matthew Joseph spoke to Equinoxe Television. Our reporters today, Babila Jonathan, compiles his own side of the story in this report.
He was a companion of Ernest Wandier. He fought with him to liberate French Cameroon from the colonial hooks of France. Matthew Joseph was the personal secretary of the nationalist fighter.
Le camarade était un grand camarade.
He describes Ernest Wandier as a great comrade, intelligent, very courageous, and hardworking. He adds that Ernest Wandier never got tired and will never give up, even in most difficult circumstances. 54 years after the assassination of Ernest Wandier, and at 85, Matthew Joseph still remembers his encouraging smiles through which he galvanized his followers like him. He laments over the fact that these truths are being hidden from Cameroonians, saying, those who are trying to thwart history are doing so to cover up the atrocities they committed alongside the colonial master.
We will be talking more on the fight Ernest Wandier put up against colonial rule in the second part of the news. Now in health, many Cameroonians are suffering from knee arthritis, gout, and other infections. Orthopedic surgeons say this most times results to knee replacement or kneecap surgery. The medics from Cameroon and abroad were speaking during the second launching of the kneecap surgery at the surgical department of the General Hospital in Douala. Our reporter Lucy Liengo is here. What's there?
In Cameroon, knee arthritis remains a significant health condition affecting both men and women. This condition impacts the cartilage in the knee joint, which results in pain, stiffness, swelling as the bones rub against each other.
In Cameroon, in a normal setting, 2 out of every 10 women who visit the hospital for an orthopedic problem has a knee arthritis.
To address severe pain, instability in the knee caused by damage of the kneecap, the General Hospital of Douala launched the second knee surgery program from February 24 to 28, led by Professor Pius Fokam, the head of the surgery department.
This is about the second campaign we're having within 5 months. We had one other campaign in August, which we operated about 21 patients. And this time we programmed about 18 patients to be operated upon. So far, this is midway, we've done about 10 patients.
In a bid to enhance the expertise of surgeons at the General Hospital of Douala, orthopedic surgeons from the United States of America are sharing their knowledge by impacting surgical techniques.
This mission is for teaching the surgeons here how to use this particular knee replacement. As he mentioned, it's FDA approved. It is used in the United States, but it is able to be at a lower price for other countries.
Few hours after the first surgeries at the orthopedic operating room, one of the patients expresses satisfaction, stating that despite her fears, the successful outcome boosted her morale. Just like her, Papa Chick, months after the surgery, can now work for 5 kilometers.
So I came here on the 12th of August, and 14th I was operated upon. Today I'm feeling fine. I can walk, I can drive.
Though the campaign ends on February 28, patients with knee problems can visit the hospital to benefit from a qualified team.
Now to the Adamawa region, where 5 persons died following a fire incident which happened precisely at Gadamabanga. According to eyewitness accounts, the fire happened after the explosion of a gas bottle. Cedric Chakutio with details.
5 people, a pregnant woman, her 2 children, and 2 other neighboring children died in a fire incident that occurred in Gadamabanga neighborhood, Gaoundere, Adamawa region of Cameroon.
The father had gone out for prayers. When he returned home, he found out his house is on fire. À la maison. There are 5 people who died. The mother with 2 children, 2 girls, and 2 unknown men that I do not know.
The incident, according to report, might be linked to a gas cooker as the woman was cooking. Other eyewitnesses say it might be due to the fuel the lady was keeping in her house.
It seems that there is a short circuit in the neighborhood and electricity came suddenly after. It is also that the woman had bottles of fuel in her house.
While investigations are ongoing, the corpses were all given to the various families.
In the far north and north regions have indicated their readiness to help government authorities to secure finances that could help in the reconstruction of the north and the far north regions of Cameroon. The lawyers who had a gathering or met in the far north region say they have noticed government officials have difficulties in getting finances from banking institutions, reasons they are prepared to give it their own support. Smart Gabriel tells us more.
They are all lawyers based in the far north region of Cameroon, and they are meeting for one purpose: reconstruction of their region, which has been damaged by Boko Haram rebels. These lawyers say they want to seek for ways to galvanize fundings from banking institutions to rebuild their region, and they are set to work side by side with government officials.
We learned many things precisely in Islamic finance. Is a new thing for us. I think in the reconstruction of the far north, it is an opportunity for authorities of this region to exploit this opportunity to rebuild after the catastrophe of war.
The lawyers say that your gathering was motivated by the fact that government authorities in the region are finding it difficult to get financial support from financing bodies like the Islamic Development Bank, reasons they came in to help them. They are now urging their colleagues of the southwest and northwest regions to do so.
I think it is another thing for our colleagues of Nous, Southwest and Northwest.
3 regions, Southwest, Northwest and Far North, are the only places concerned with reconstruction in Cameroon.
In other news, sub-Saharan Africa and China are determined to dismantle economic conflicts and disputes which remain part of the major obstacles to the advancement of global trade. To ensure a perfect dispute management, China has concluded an arbitration agreement with the sub-region, an agreement concluded by representatives of both parties here in Douala. For me, Armstrong Sander reports.
Being the first ever in sub-Saharan Africa, the China-Africa Arbitration Agreement concluded here in Douala marks the beginning of impartiality, non-discrimination, adaptability, flexibility, pragmatism, accessibility and confidentiality in trade between China and the sub-Saharan region of the continent.
Last year, I was invited at the China Summit Arbitration in my capacity of President of African Arbitration and President of the Association of Arbitration in Africa. I went there, and after the event, they told me they don't have such cooperation with sub-Saharan African countries, and that I should propose something. I proposed, and they are there to the idea of the Afro-China Arbitration Days. They promised to come, they came today, and this is, we hope so, the beginning of a long and fruitful cooperation.
A lofty idea accepted and fully embraced by the Cameroon Chamber of Commerce through the Court of Arbitration and Mediation of the institution.
Africa and China, we are engaged in the big trade because Africa is to be built and China is the provider of many equipment which we need. So it's really why trade between the two continents is growing. We need to make it sort of way that when there is any problem, we should solve it, not in the traditional court, but in mediation, arbitration, and conciliation.
As a key technical actor in arbitration and mediation, the Cameroon Bar Council says it is committed to give its best to the success of the agreement.
Earlier, the Bar Council is ready to assist whenever and wherever we are needed. We have arbitrators in all domains, we have mediators in all domains, so the Bar Council is ready to give a helping hand.
Considering the important role played by China in today's global trade, participants say that the event was timely. The Memorandum of Understanding was signed by the President of the African Association for Arbitration for the African side and the Secretary General for the China Diplomatic Association for Arbitration.
And now in news out of Cameroon, the United Nations says famine has taken hold of most parts of Sudan following the security crisis plaguing that country. And the United Kingdom has joined other international bodies to condemn Rwanda's support for the M23 rebels in the DRC. Details with Mala Glory.
The United Nations on Wednesday said the already catastrophic situation in Sudan has worsened since the last Security Council briefing just weeks ago, and that famine is now a reality in several parts of the country. The Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs said nearly 2 years of conflict between the army and the paramilitary rapid support forces has inflicted immense suffering in 10 parts of the country into hellscape. But despite widespread starvation, the huge humanitarian needs and aid providers have suspended operations at the largest displacement camp known as Zamzam because of intense fighting which has forced more than 500,000 people to move to safer zones. And elsewhere, the UK said it was against Rwanda's support for the M23, a rebel group that has captured Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo in deadly uprising. Rwanda used to deny backing the M23, but recently it has adopted a more defensive line, saying fighting near the border between Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda is a threat to its security. According to DR Congo's government, more than 7,000 people have died and hundreds of thousands have fled their homes since the conflict escalated in January. The government goes further to explain that, along with the suspension of aid, the UK will impose other measures, such as looking into potential sanctions and suspending future defense training assistance. These measures will last until significant progress is made in ceasing hostilities and withdrawing Rwandan military personnel from Democratic Republic of Congo.
Thank you, Glory. And from there, we come to the end of the first part of the news. Don't go away, viewers. Talking Points comes up next. Welcome back, viewers. Our guest tonight is Dr. Gilbert NGIMNDO. He is a historian. Thank you, Doctor, for accepting to talk to us on Talking Points tonight. Now, there has been this much talk recently about the nationalist Ernest Wandier, who was described as a criminal by a politician in Limbilobe. It has been causing an uproar and even discontentment within the public space. Doctor, you are a historian. Can you set the record straight about the sacrificial role Ernest Wandier played against colonial rule in the country? Can you situate us who Ernest Wandier was, his fight, and what he stood for?
Yeah, thank you for the question. As to who Ernest Wandier was, this is one of the very fervent, one of the very popular and powerful and rare Cameroonian nationalist leader who fought within the framework of the Union de Population du Cameroun, the UPC, from his very early age. Born in 1924 in a village, Dumla village of the Bana district of the Bamileke ethnic group, Ernest Wandier joined the UPC. He started politics in his very young age, and he joined the UPC when he was still young, and militated so powerfully within the UPC, such that in 1952 he became the vice president of that very powerful party. I call it very powerful because it was the party that represented the aspirations of several, if not majority, of Cameroonians at that epoch. With all his efforts, all his energy till 1955, when Commissioner Roland Pré outlawed the party in French Cameroon, forcing it to go clandestine, and they started operating because the UPC had that determination to oust the French from French Cameroon. So he participated in the underground movement described clandestine, and he is one of those who crossed to southern Cameroon after the UPC was banned. He crossed to southern Cameroon, militated within the party, and went right from Tico, went right up to Kumba, and then came up. And in 1970, he gave up himself at Mbanga to the gendarmes at Mbanga, and then he was taken to Yaoundé, where he was tried and sentenced to death by firing squad. And on the 15th of January 1971, unfortunately for the UPC, and I would say that unfortunately for Cameroon also, Ernest Wandier was fired at Bafoussam.
Now, Dr. Gilbert, many people still seem very ignorant about the facts you've just been mentioning a while ago. Don't you think it's time we begin thinking of, or we began thinking of correcting the history of Cameroon?
Yeah, thank you. You see, madam, the issue here is not rewriting the history of Cameroon. The issue here is paying more attention and giving more attention to those nationalist leaders who sacrificed their lives, sacrificed the lives of their children and their families for the sake of Cameroonians. As to whether the history has been written or not, I want to assure you, enough has been written, though enough still has to be written. A lot still has to be written, but a lot has been written already. Cameroon has a lot of experts in history who have written a lot. I can cite Professor Achille Mbembe, who has written largely on the UPC, who has written largely on it. I can cite so many others. Reverend Fadam Veng, who wrote a lot. I can cite so many. Professor Ngo is there. He has written a lot. And this a host of others who have written on the UPC, who have highlighted the works of those nationalist leaders, the sacrifices those nationalist leaders within the UPC have done. What I feel that should be done is that in the various levels of the education system in Cameroon, the works of these nationalist leaders should be highlighted. Should be highlighted so that politicians, sub-Saharan African politicians, who don't even have an objective, who do not have a plan of action for their people, who win votes by any means, shouldn't come up and think that they will come and rob the image of people who this nation glorify a lot, people who this nation hold a lot of respect for. This is a personality who in 1991 the Cameroon Parliament declared him as a national hero. I wonder where this politician was in 1991. I wonder if he is not aware that Equinoxe Nwandje is a national hero declared by the Cameroon National Assembly. I wonder if he is not aware of that. So, the response to your question is precise. The works of these, the sacrifices of these national heroes should be brought to limelight, more and more to limelight, and it should be made known at all levels of education in Cameroon, the secondary and the higher level, so that every growing up Cameroonian should be able to be aware of the sacrifices these nationalists, especially those within the UPC, went through, that will help to implant the spirit of nationalism, the spirit of patriotism in Cameroonians, because they would learn what others did, and they would develop sympathy for those people. They will be able to know what it takes sacrificing for a nation. They will be able to know what is meant by patriotism, because all what Equinoxe Nwandje did, Umniobe did, Felix Roland Momier did, and the others did, Afana did, and the others, was patriotism. The desire to break up from French rule was being patriotic, to make sure that their people have a society that is theirs, free from foreign interference and free from domination.
We shall be talking also in the course of this conversation on what can be done at the level of our curriculum or the school program. Now, insisting on correcting our historical facts, public opinions have it that our history has been distorted. Those who fought for our freedom are instead described as rebels or labeled as maquisards. How can that narrative be changed, Dr. Gilbert?
Yeah, madam, you see, the issue here, I do not always believe on this issue of national opinion when it comes to historical facts. No, because public opinions do not influence historical facts. History does not forgive. And history does not forgive. Once there are historical facts and there is historical truth. And history does not forgive, let's be clear. What is history is history. And public opinion has its own view. If politicians throw their mouth, let their mouth loose and any kind of thing come out of it, that doesn't mean that the UPC did not fight for this nation. That doesn't mean that nationalist leaders did not have this nation at heart. So what I believe has to be done is that, look at it, in writing history, every expert, every historian, or every historiographer has an objective to attain. There are challenges in the historical science, and every piece in the historical science turns to match to an objective. There is the functional objective, there is the epistemological objective, there is the historiographic objective, there is the relative objective. All these objectives are targeted whenever a historian wants to produce a piece in history. He tries as much as possible to overcome these challenges by producing what will handle these challenges. So, if in any history book, national leaders are labeled as maquisards or as rebels, that is the tone that was used by colonizers, by French colonizers, and those who were called the assimilated French Cameroonians, those who took the title of French citizenship and were referred to as les citoyens français, and who by some means blindly believe that they have become Frenchmen and tend to look at their countrymen as rebels. That is the caption, that is the way they looked at it. And since they wrote their reports using those captions, using those labels on them, they have turned to enter text for those who research. They have entered textbooks for those who research. But the fact is research remains very objective. It remains objective in the way that you would need to know, to go deeper, to know that these people were not rebels, they were objective nationalists. Because when you look deeply into the French policies, the impact of the French policies on French Cameroonians, and when you look at the actions of the UPC faced to the French, you do not need to read any book to realize that the nationalists of the UPC, the NX Wandier, the Roland Moumier, the Afana, the Omniobe, and the others were fighting for a true Cameroon. They were fighting for a true Cameroon.
And now, Doc, before we go, talking about our curriculum, how can we ensure that the young people nowadays get to know who our national heroes are? Because as we speak, most youths in secondary schools still are very ignorant about national heroes in Cameroon. What can be done at that level?
The works of those nationalist leaders has to be brought to limelight. That is the solution I am proposing. It has to be brought to limelight. Within the academic sphere in Cameroon, within the levels of academics in Cameroon, be it secondary and higher education, a curriculum has to be designed by the powers that be, secondary and higher. If the works of these nations has to be valorized, has to be expanded, so that it touches Cameroonians of all various walks of life. Because when we talk of patriotism, it doesn't mean that you must have learned to a certain level. It mustn't mean that you must have attained a certain social level before you display patriotism. No, we are talking of all Cameroonians. So the solution that can be proposed should be that the works of these leaders be inserted into the academic programs, the curriculum study in the economic programs of all levels, so that Cameroonians can be able to embrace them, become aware, and gain a lot from it, know who they were, if possibly know those ethnic groups. Although some people would think that it's spirit of tribalism, but no. Who doesn't know in Cameroon that UPC was Bassa and Bamileke? No, it is like that. It is like that.
Our national heroes must or should be respected, if for nothing but for the sacrifices they made, even at the expense of their own lives. Thank you so much, Dr. Gilbert NGIMNDO, for edifying us. Thank you for your time, sir, and hope to have you some other time. Viewers, thank you so much for being with us. That was what we put together for you this evening. Our programs continue on Equinoxe Television this evening. The news in the French language comes up at 8 p.m. and Equinoxe was 7 p.m. Stay with us on Equinoxe Television. And again, see you tomorrow, same time, God willing. Bye-bye for now.